psychosis definition, a severe mental disorder in which thought and emotions are so impaired that contact is lost with external reality. Psycho, referring to psychopath, is a person suffering from chronic mental disorder with abnormal or violent social behavior. Hi, welcome to SpyWandWatch. Let's talk about movies. (1960). Back to the black and white days. But wait, no. Movies in color came a few decades before. Having no color gives this movie an eerier vibe and makes it seem older. After all these years, it remains a classic and iconic movie by the critically acclaimed director Alfred Hitchcock. And I know I've seen Psycho referenced in a lot of media, including The Simpsons. Psycho is very mysterious since it kept throwing curveballs at you. For its time, it was probably one of the most shocking movies out there. In the beginning, it seemed totally normal, but you weren't quite sure what was going on. Nothing that would seem to lead to murder. You don't always know what people will do. Some are seemingly normal, but then they go and steal $40,000 or want to kill you. The main character, Mary Crane, seemed like a woman who was not satisfied with her life. She had a relationship that couldn't go further due to money, so they met together in secret. The sudden thievery could have been out of desperation or greed. It was hasty and not well planned, as Marion was seen leaving the town and was last seen with the money. She made many mistakes, though after watching a lot of TV and movies, it seems more obvious what she should be doing. Her biggest mistake was turning into the Bates Motel, where she was the sole person staying, but her mistakes also did lead a trail that some could follow. But this was also 1960, a very different time than today. Some say that people were more trusting. They left their doors unlocked. In the movie, they couldn't even show the stabbing, only glimpses of the knife and parts of her body. A lot of media today doesn't shy away from the gore and nudity, but that scene was almost more scary since it held back. It was more restrained. That was even the first movie to have a flushing toilet shown on screen. This film was actually based off the novel by Robert Bloch in 1959. Bloch often wrote about killers and various horror and crime stories. A non-serial killer, Ed Gein, aka the Butcher of Plainfield, happened to be arrested near where Bloch lived. Though the writer didn't find out till later about the horrible atrocities this murderer committed, Bloch did make an allusion towards him. After some time, the similarities became clearer, since both of his fictional and the real-life murderer had an abusive mother. There were a few serial killers that came out of these couple decades, the 50s and 60s, even more some well-known ones, popping up in later decades. Now we have an obsession with serial killers. We're trying to understand them. This film sheds a light on how complex a serial killer can be. There may be reasons for the way they are. Sometimes mental illness and environmental factors. Their actions are inexcusable though, but it seems like characters like Bates have been broken and pushed over the edge. How do these more monsters than people act in such horrible ways? Today, there are numerous true crime shows, films, podcasts, etc. Our society wants to look at the famous murderers and try to solve their cases. It seems that people are so captivated by these strange people. They are the worst of the worst. They are so outrageous, it's almost unreal. Looking at the darker side, surrounding Hitchcock's talent for directing is the allegation of the mistreatment of one of his starring actresses. Tippi Hedren has spoken out about the sexual assault during her time filming The Birds, and some other abuse leading into another film, Marnie. Hitchcock is known for having adult themes mixed with murder, and if we look at them closer, some could say that many are an assault on women. In Psycho, the female lead, though, made some unethical choices. She faces harsh punishment. The only harm the main actress of Psycho, Vera Miles, brought with her from the film was her newfound fear of showers. Honestly, there wasn't much I didn't like about the movie. Maybe I was just sad it was such an abrupt ending for the main character. But maybe I'm just reminded about the fact that I could be attacked in my shower at any moment. Or maybe just how often women are attacked. But that's what made the movie scary. After researching the movie, I do look at Hitchcock in a different light, and it is something to look into more. Some things I did like: that Norman Bates seemed like a normal guy, awkward and lonely, but there were hints of weirdness and something off. This movie did touch upon mental illness, Like most media, it kind of exaggerates a little bit, or it goes to the worst case scenario. But at the time, there was still a lot to learn about mental illness since many didn't really talk about it. During the 50s and 60s was when psych wards were being exposed and shut down due to inhumane treatment of patients. For its time, it did give some information on what is now called dissociative identity disorder. People who have this usually are victims of serious abuse. I also did like the storytelling. It was shocking and it made you think about the horrors of what could happen and what mistakes people make. The shots were great, particularly in the shower scene. They became iconic because it focused on things like the shower drain and her eye, like how David Lynch will focus on a stoplight and ceiling fan. It leaves something to the imagination and it makes it even more ominous. This movie definitely would have been different if it was in color. And finally, a great use of music to set the mood, often without movement or inferent action.